right. All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody, to Cracking the Rich Code. I'm your host, Pete Beskus, and today we have another one of our amazing authors, Ophir Adar. Ophir, welcome to the program. For those of you listening, Ophir is a real estate coach, teacher, mentor, and he helps take wannabe realtors to professional realtors. So welcome to the program, Ophir. I'm so happy to have you on. Like, even before we hit record or live, you and I started going off on the rails. So I had to hit, let's start, let's get after this. Welcome to the program.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me. And it's such a great community, the Cracking Rich Code authors.
Well, we're lucky to have you because what you bring to the table, and I think this is so interesting, is from our conversation earlier and from your background, you teach people how to become successful realtors, right?
Yes,
And I think, this is one of those things where I think it affects everyone. Like, this isn't something that's just, oh, I want to be a realtor, and so therefore it only affects me. This affects the people buying houses, the people selling houses, the markets, like everything we're experiencing right now, all the ups and downs. Um,
absolutely.
I'm going to ask you right now, what is your view of housing at this moment?
It's such a phenomenal question because I believe that, in order to be able to support the consumer the right way, you not only need to talk about what are their goals, but you also need to talk about where are we at in the market and where's the market going, right? Because that's an important piece as well. Is it better to sell now? Is it better to sell later, right? And so I'll tell you simply this, right? I mean, I've talked to so many sellers and my agents have talked to so many sellers, and they're all saying the same thing, which is we're waiting for the interest rates to go down to jump into the market. So then the question I pose to the sellers, what's going to happen when all the sellers jump in the market at the same time?
Yeah.
Because we have not had, Pete, no one's talking about it, we haven't had a correction in 15 years.
Hmm.
We have historically a correction every 7 to 10 years, and so the prices and the interest rates are not commensurate with the market.
Yeah, so there's something off here, right? Like there's something
Completely off.
fishy. So the question, and you're in the LA market, and I'm in Southern
Yes,
California as well. I'm in Orange County, so we're neighbors. And
yes,
if you live in this area, and I'm sure there's a few other areas in the US that are like this, where the prices never dip. It's always a hot market. There's always scarcity. There's ridiculous numbers. Like if you look at a house in a dilapidated one story in California, you can get a mansion in Michigan, right?
yes,
So
yes.
in this
And
market, in this competitive, saturated, everyone is out at, every person who becomes a celebrity real estate agent and on
yeah,
TV. How do you take the wannabe person, the person that's like, let me give this a shot? What do you tell them? Like, how do you coach them through that decision to even dive in?
absolutely. And I'm happily going to share that with you. And I am going to share something else with you, Pete. We are not insulated. We are not insulated. We have a correction here as well. We
Hmm.
are much more insulated than the rest of the country. So we have less of a dip, but the market doesn't continually go straight up like this, which is what people are banking on. The market goes down and corrects because at some point the buyers get into a frenzy and it goes up way too fast, way too much. So we were expecting a shift in the market when the pandemic hit. We were expecting the market to go down. And instead, what happened? It went straight up when it was supposed to go down. So I believe we will have a correction 1000%. I mean, it's going to be not as big as the rest of the country, but 5 to 10%. We will have prices adjust because they have to adjust to the interest rates. Think about this,
Okay.
if the interest rates went up 5 points, then the prices should have gone down, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
instead, the interest rates went up and the prices went up.
Yeah. So there's a lag effect at some point.
Yeah. And so, the thing is, this is exactly leads into the question you just asked me, which is what I teach people is authenticity, right? Is
Okay.
to
So
be,
sorry, I hate to interrupt you there because I think it goes to that one point when you mentioned a little earlier, and it's like with a correction, when things are booming, anybody thinks they can pick up a business card and sell a house, right?
Right.
Or, it doesn't matter. In tech, it was like I can pick up a thing and program and create an app and I'll become a billionaire. And it's the same thing with
Yes.
real estate. So if there's a correction, if in hard times, it's what separates the good
The
from the
good.
mediocre, right? So
Yeah.
if you're looking at this person right now who's sitting on their couch or sitting in their car listening to
Yeah.
this, and they're like, well, I'm interested. Like, how do I take advantage of this market? Now, what do you tell them? What do you tell that
Now,
person?
that's the most beautiful question in the world, Pete, because now I'm going to tell you this is going to be the best market in history for someone to build a real estate business. The best by far that we've ever had for somebody new to come in and build a successful real estate business. Because when the market's hot and people are jumping into agents or jumping into the market, they don't learn the right process of building their business because they're just getting business and they're running around trying to facilitate it. But when the market's down, you have to build the right foundation in your business and build it the right way. And
Okay.
and more specifically, Pete, I believe that new agents should become listing agents. And what the market and what everybody else is telling them is go be a buyer's agent, go join a team. And I show them within 90 days how to be a listing agent, how to get appointments every single week, and how to build their business quickly and easily.
Okay, so for the layman like me, difference between a buyer's agent and a listing agent.
It's a huge difference.
What is that? Explain that to me.
So, it's so interesting that you say that because what is the difference between a buyer's agent and a listing agent? The listing agent focuses on listings. They're not focused on working with buyers. So 80% of their business is listings and maybe 20, 30%, 70, 80 and 20, 30% are buyers. So their focus is on getting listings and working with sellers. The buyer's agent's focus is on what? Is on finding buyers to sell properties to. And with the change that happened in the laws, right, with all the Sitzer-Burnett, the changes that have happened are affecting buyer's agents way more than listing agents.
Okay,
It's so tough to be a buyer's agent moving forward.
So then why would somebody who's sitting back looking to dive into this, why would they choose? Like, what is it that they're being told that they would want to go one way versus the other? Like, what would discourage them from wanting to become a listing agent? What would encourage them to want to be a buying agent?
Yeah, most of the brokerages are telling them that they need to be buyer's agents.
Okay.
Telling them that that's how you build your business is by focusing on buyers first, and then they become your sellers.
Okay,
And
so
the
they're
thing that
playing the
happened-
long game, the
long game,
you're going to
right.
get the 5-year, 10-year payout.
Yes. And the thing
Okay.
that happened to me was, I had such frustration in my first year and a half. And by the way, I built my business in the Sunset Strip of Los Angeles. So not an easy place. And I had such a difficult time at the first year and a half. And then I got into coaching. And within 2 years, I became the #1 listing agent for Keller Williams in all of California because I followed a formula and I focused on sellers instead of focusing on buyers. So I was lucky enough to get that opportunity to learn that I was focusing on the wrong thing and I was having the wrong conversations. And it's really simple and easy when you build your business the right way with the focus on sellers. You're still going to work with buyers, but that's not your focus.
So what's the different challenge then when you're saying focusing on sellers? Like, where's the challenge there that would that resistance that prevents people from really diving into it?
Yeah, it's the messaging that they're getting. It really is the messaging that they're getting. And I'll share this, whether it's a good share or a bad share, I'm not sure. And at the same time, I've now managed for 3 of the top companies, Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker, and finally Compass, Beverly Hills, and Hollywood, which were the 2 largest offices in the country. 2023, I managed $8 billion worth of transactions.
So it's just 1 or 2, right?
Yeah, right.
Just 1 or 2.
And all the celebrity agents that you're talking about, I manage, right? And so it's just really interesting to see that the training has gone away in real estate. So now what they're doing is they have this focus on putting people on teams.
Okay.
And then they're telling the team, oh, the team's responsible for training them. And I know the team's not training them.
Hmm.
So now what it's designed to do is churn and burn, what I call churn and burn new agents, right?
Hmm.
Milk them, get a couple of transactions out of them, not really train them fully. And that's why I stepped down from being a manager at a cushy job and a manager at Compass, Beverly Hills, and Hollywood in order to launch this company because I train new agents all day long and they always become listing agents like that because
Yeah.
I'm training them the right way.
Yeah,
That's simple.
you hit on something really important there that I think is, systemic in any industry, right?
Yes.
There's the corporation, right? And the corporation's goal is to make money, right? They're going to try to make the $8 billion and everything else.
Yes.
And the people that are coming up, the people boots on the ground, right?
Yes.
They kind of become disposable, but you can't be a disposable commodity in a relationship-based industry, which I think real estate is. Like,
It's
that's a
all
relationship
relationship
industry.
based.
Yeah.
1000%. Yeah. The interesting thing is you also need to have where do you make your money? You make your money on the real estate agents doing transactions.
Hmm.
So why wouldn't you have a focus on training them and getting them to do more helping them, supporting them, and getting them to do more transactions? Because that only benefits you.
Yeah. And I think that there's the difference too. Like, I've seen this and I've seen this across the board. It doesn't matter if it's medicine or if it's real estate or if it's,
Sales,
barbers or
right?
anything like that. There's a
Yeah.
brand. And I think you named it too. There's the trap of the Keller Williams, the Compass, the Remax, whatever it is, it's the brand. And the brand is what sells versus the individual. And I think what I'm hearing you say is you're teaching how the individual can sell and take advantage of the work that they're putting in versus working under a flagship brand.
Yes. First of all, I need you to be my spokesperson.
Anytime, anytime. Let's
Because
go.
you say things beautifully and succinctly, and that's really the reality, right? And so when I got into real estate, I started with Coldwell Banker,
Hmm.
and I felt like they were telling me I got my business because of their brand,
Hmm.
and I had worked my tail. I'm like, no, I got my business because of me,
Yeah.
right? And so that's my focus is on empowering when I empower agents to become listing agents quickly and easily, they easily do it. It's
So
not that difficult. It's just that they're told to not focus on sellers at the beginning of their career.
yeah, they're focused on, again, like I said, it's the tactics and approach of that agency. So whatever their tactic and approach is, and their ultimate desire to churn and burn, like you said, like I'm gonna just have a hopper of 100 fresh new realtors, burn them out, and then I'm good. But
They,
yeah,
they're
that's a different
supporting the
model.
bigger teams
Uh-huh.
that are churning and burning new agents. I look at it almost like multi-level, it's changed into multi-level marketing for real estate agents.
Hmm.
Instead of coaching and training them, it's just designed to get them on a team and the team will make some money from them doing a couple of transactions. And then they'll either stay in the business or move on, right?
Yeah, and I can see where the real benefit is for the brand, for the big
Yes.
companies. I can see where the benefit is for them, but I also see where what you're offering and what you're teaching is beneficial to the individual, the person trying to feed their family, the person trying to, like, make a career of this. And I could see that, one of the fears that I would have if, I'm putting myself in their shoes, one of the
Yes.
fears I would have would be, well, I'm going to train you up and I'm going to teach you, I'm going to coach you, and then you're going to take your book of people and leave me.
Right.
But if I keep you on the treadmill, you'll never be able to poke your head up long enough to do that, and I'll
Yes.
keep the business. Whereas I think, for a successful, if you're going to be in, a career, 30,
Right.
40 years, those relationships last, and that book is yours, that group of people is yours. You should benefit
It,
from from those relationships.
it's always the agents. And as a manager, as somebody who's a leader, my job is to create a space for the agents not to want to leave.
Hmm.
That's how I look at it, right? They
Yeah.
don't want to leave me because of the energy that we create. And by the way, the same things that I've set up in my coaching is the same things that I set up in my offices. The accountability group, the role play, the objection handling, the most important things in real estate. And when agents learn those things from you and they're in an environment that they're growing, why would they want to leave?
Yeah. And you nailed it because, I'm in leadership and I've always said management isn't leadership, right? They're
Right.
separate things.
Yes.
And the way that things work in a corporate setting is management. It's about achieving certain mandates. But
Yes.
leadership is about collaboration. It's about succeeding on all levels. It's about, as a leader, you empower the people underneath you. You're beholden to them as much as more than they're beholden to you.
Absolutely. And Pete, I was a specialist. They brought me in when an office was getting ready to be shut down to turn it around quickly. And so, the first office I turned around was in 2008 in Hancock Park of Los Angeles. It was 800 out of 810 Keller Williams offices. And within a year, we were in the top 10.
What was your secret for that?
It was exactly what we're just talking about, which is, creating this environment where there's training, there's accountability, there's energy. They're focused on relationships, creating relationships, and I'm focused on giving them the tools that they need to support that. And
You
so
know,
that's a beautiful relationship.
you nailed it. And I think one word you missed out of that was that collaboration, right? That support, that ability to re-energize because you're all working together to benefit each other.
And it comes from an abundant, this is one of the focuses of my coaching, right? It's our mantra is feed your white wolf,
Mm-hmm.
because you're either coming from abundance or you're coming from scarcity. And
Yeah.
most corporations, they always come from scarcity, right? They don't
And
come
I
from
think I'm going to reword that because I know we as coaches use those words abundance and scarcity. That doesn't mean anything to anybody really. It's fear. Scarcity is
fear.
fear.
Thank you.
And that's what is being pumped into people. Fear of losing their job, fear of, being overlooked, fear of,
Yes.
your partner who's now a competitor, right?
Yes.
It's a competition-based mindset that comes from fear versus, the growth mindset, the abundance is about working together to raise the tide.
And
Everybody benefits.
and it's such a beautiful way that you say it. I love that because that's exactly it. Fear versus growth. And I don't have competition. Are there enough leads for me to succeed at the highest level around me? Of course there are. I don't care what the market is.
Yeah.
And for my agents too. But if you're constantly going, there's no business, there's no business, there's no business, then what do you see out there? No
No
business.
business. Yeah. And the other thing too, it's like I think we do see that with you mentioned it with the interest rates, with highs and lows and bubbles and this, that, the other. And it's that, things will be good and things will be bad, right? Things will be tight. Let's say tight, it won't be bad,
Yes.
right? But it's, there's always going to be a house, right? Like we have a fixed amount of houses and they're only ever increasing.
Yeah, and if you're in California, like you said earlier, I mean, there may be dips and growth trajectories, and at the same time, it's always going to go upwards, right? California is always going to go straight up in a really high pace. Even if you have a correction, then it'll come back up, right?
Yeah.
So it's a great place to be. You just have to be aware of the market, because listen, what I feel like is that agents right now are being taught to go after commissions, to go after deals. And it's very disconcerting and it's not appealing to consumers, right?
Yeah.
And so when you understand how to focus on the consumer and really focus on what their needs and goals are, then you succeed at the highest level and you develop clients for life.
It's funny because I come from a corporate energy background
Yeah.
in oil and gas. And it's funny because one of the biggest issues I always had was mergers and acquisitions, deals, right?
Yes.
And I always looked and said, like, how are deals, who are the deals benefiting? Are the
Right.
deals benefiting the company? And in your individual would be the people owning the houses, right? Like the client. Are they
Right.
benefiting them or are they benefiting the agent in the number of transactions? So are you looking at volume versus quality? Are
Right.
you, are you trying to get the
Yeah.
best for your client or are you trying to get 20 deals done in a year?
Yes, exactly. And if you're focused on the deal, then you're always going to be chasing a deal versus focused on supporting people, on helping people. And Pete, in the market that trajectory we're headed in, I've seen this all the time, right? Like if you're not having fierce, real conversations with people, you're doing them a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going to end up losing money on the property, right? They're going to end up getting another agent who tells them exactly what they want to hear, and then they chase the market down, right? And so I teach how to have real conversations, how to support people with their needs. And, when you are consistent in your habits of talking to 5 new people a day, in my world, you're going to make 250, 500 and above easily.
Yeah.
That's all you need is 5 new people every day.
So that seems daunting though to people when you say 5 new people every day. And what's interesting to me is that conversation. I think all of us who are in any kind of a business, the most daunting thing is talking to 5 new people a day.
Yes.
And you get the added benefit of being in real estate, which has a horrible reputation, right?
Yeah.
I could talk to you all day
Yes.
long, Ophir. Like you're very authentic, you're very honest, you're very transparent, right? And I think that's what you need more of you types to kind of to rebrand this real estate field.
You just said it perfectly.
Yeah, but
Do
as I
you
was
think,
saying,
do
so
you think
how
I
did you
started
teach?
like this, Pete?
Well, tell me, I'm curious. How did you start? And then
I
when did you
was
have that aha moment? Like this has to stop.
I was terrified of door knocking and calling people that I didn't know. And I felt like I was smarmy and I felt like I was,
Yeah, icky.
not authentic, right? And so you asked a beautiful question. The change that happened was when I reframed how I was looking at it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I reframed it in terms of there are a lot of bad real estate agents out there. And if I'm not out there talking to people, they might end up with one of them. And I don't want that to happen. So it really drove my purpose of talking to people, finding somebody who has a need. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not selling you anything in real estate, right? So I'm just looking for somebody that has a need and how I can support them. And it's a much easier process to attach to versus I'm trying to get a deal, right? Which is what they're being taught and what they're doing.
Yeah. So can I ask you, can you walk me through what it looks like for Ophir to knock on a door?
Oh, by the way, Pete, this is one of my phrases that I share. You can't stop a door knocker from taking over a neighborhood. You can't. You literally can't. And they're being taught how to do it the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, door knocking is about what? It's about getting sellers into my database that I can then communicate with every 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
That's the goal. So imagine this, if I'm talking to 25 people a week, door knocking, 5 of them are going to give me their contact information.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 240 people in 1 year in one area that I can call every 90 days and check in with. There is so much power there. And the secret to this is what? Is that most of these homeowners are orphans. Their agent that sold them property never stayed in touch with them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so easy to become a listing agent, to take over a farm area, to door knock. So if I'm door knocking you, I'm just literally going to knock on the door, take a step back so I'm not in your face. And then I'm just going to share with you some information about the neighborhood, price per square foot, what's sold recently, and have a simple conversation and ask you, have you had any thoughts about moving? Now that's where the conversation starts, and people don't get it because the no is automatic. You don't trust me. I don't have rapport with you yet.
Yeah.
So once I get to that no, then I focus on mirroring and matching and repeating and affirming and asking questions and building that rapport. So then they open up to you because nobody's opening up to you unless you build a level of rapport with them.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that because I've read an amazing book, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, right? And he
Yeah, of
always
course,
says,
I've read it.
oh, of course, right? Yeah, of course. What am I thinking, Ophir? Of course you read it. And I love that you just nailed all of his kind of tactics, which is like you start at no, knows where you want to get to. And that's when
Yes.
you actually begin the conversation. I love
Yes.
hearing that. And you hit another great point that I just want to flesh out for everyone listening. Doesn't matter what you do in life. You want to actually connect with people, you're going to become a coach, right? Those are
Yes.
all coaching tools, whether it's mirroring, whether it's reflecting back what people are saying, whether it's listening to them. Like
Yes.
this is
Active
all
listening.
fundamental, foundational coaching tools, and you're turning people into real estate, but like home coaches. Like, and I think, you know, the best realtors I've ever worked with came with information. They came with a value.
Yes, and I want to support, I want my agents to support the consumer in any needs they may have, whether it be first-time home buyer, whether it be an investor. We want, and that's why we do a lot of training as well. So,
Mhm.
you know, you should be constantly in training as a real estate agent. You should constantly be learning, and you should be creating the habit of lead generation, because that's where your business comes from. You know, it's not that this is the mistake that people make. They think that you got to love lead generation. I've met very few people that say, I love lead generation, right? I love what it brings me, the opportunity to help people. That's what I love about it. And so that's why I'm committed to it.
Yeah, I've had to say, like, for me, that's been a huge struggle too, right? Like the idea of lead generation, and I've had to try to pivot to the idea of it's just conversations. Like, it's just a conversation a day.
Everything else is the baggage that we put on that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I learned about me, right? It's just you're just having conversations with people. And when you appreciate that and understand that, then it's so much more impactful to go out there and communicate with people.
that's amazing. So, you know, I just wanted to highlight and try to transition a little bit and to our series, to the book, and to your contribution to the book. So you're in volume 15, and your chapter, if I remember correctly, is called Real Momentum.
Real Momentum, which is the name of my coaching company.
Okay, excellent. So walk me through a little bit of what a reader is going to get from this, from your contribution here.
Yeah, it's it's so interesting based on our conversation. So the chapter that I wrote is about what I call entrepreneurs, right?
Mhm.
Entrepreneurial warriors. And I believe there's no greater entrepreneurial warrior than somebody who gets into real estate as a real estate agent. And so I compare it to the arena with gladiators, right? I mean, it's a different world but it's still that arena. And would a gladiator walk into an arena and go, you know what? I don't need a sword, Pete. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I don't need, you know what, a shield? Nah, I don't need a shield. I'm good. I'll just wing it, right?
Yeah.
That wouldn't be heard of. But yet, real estate agents don't have a business plan. They don't learn scripts, right? These are all part of your armory, right? Part of
Mhm.
your tools and weapons that you can use, and they don't attach them in any way, shape, or form. And it's not because they're silly or they don't know what they're doing. It's just because they're not taught to understand the value of it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's like we talked about it earlier with the fear, right? And the reps and you know, like you've got to do that uncomfortable thing until it's no longer uncomfortable.
Get comfortable. That's part of part of our spiritual laws at Real Momentum is get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
That's it. When you're comfortable where does growth come from? It comes from that place where you're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
you get comfortable being uncomfortable, then growth is momentous, right?
Yeah, and you nailed, I think you also highlighted another really a nice component to what you teach and how you bring it to how you bring your offer forward is that support. Because this is what I've learned through the entrepreneurial journey is that it's lonely, it's isolating. And when you're uncomfortable, you're sitting uncomfortable by yourself. So it's really hard to stay accountable. It's really hard to overcome the desire to just hide or shrink away from the discomfort. You know, that's why, and I believe that's why when you go to basic training, there's 20 other, you know, schmucks
Yes.
with you going through the
Yes.
same stuff, right? Like that's,
Yes.
you know, so you can build up your strength and succeed. So how do you pair people up? How do you create that community? How do you support them? Much like how we support each other in the Reach Code.
That was the most beautiful thing that you just said, because that's really the sales journey in general, right? for anybody that's an entrepreneur and getting into sales. And that's the entire point of Real Momentum, is that there's strength in numbers.
Mhm.
And I've done a lot of individual coaching. The coaching I do in groups is a million times more successful, because not only are they seeing that their peers have the same problems that they do, that they think are unique only to themselves, but they can support each other, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you may be energized and ready to go, and I may not be, right? So you're going to help pump me up and keep me accountable. And we have an accountability group that only has 10 people in it for each one of our groups. So they meet once a week with me. And it's really a matter of, once we create your business plan, we break it down into week by week. Here's what you need to do in order to get the success that you want. And the reason most people fail is because they're not taught this stuff. So they're out there trying to get deals, trying to get business, and they're in busyness instead of business.
Yeah, and that's it. It's the scrambling and trial and error and trial and error, trial and error. But I've nailed it down to, in order to become successful, you really need to have that support, because that it's really easy for any entrepreneur to hide.
Absolutely. It was for
Right.
me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so easy. And that's why I call it, creating an incubator for success. We have a membership site that's designed to ascend you through the training and make sure that you're part of role play, accountability group, and your breakdown of business, so that you know exactly what you need to do week by week. And then we're just looking at it in terms of, Pete, did you hit your goals this week? What prevented you from hitting your goals? And what do we need to do next week in order to get them?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I think that, and it doesn't matter what type of professional you are, or what type of entrepreneur you are, that is such a critical component of success.
I call
Right.
it the end all be all, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's that simple. It's not easy. You said it. That's the complexity of it, right? It's not easy, and it's simple. And when you put it all together, when you put the formula together of building connection quickly, focusing on sellers, nurturing people the right way, and then knowing your numbers, then I believe that the game of real estate is pretty much over for you. And it's just a matter of how much money you want to make.
That's amazing. You make me want to join and become a realtor. Um,
Pete, the only thing I want to say is this. I love, one thing most coaches don't like is new agents. I love new agents. They're my favorite thing in the world. I believe in them. I know they have a goal of wanting to help people and make money doing it. And I think it's 80% of new agents are out of the business after 3 years.
That's very consistent with any small business, right? Like 50% of small businesses are done within 3 years.
Yes.
And I think that you've also laid out the model that the industry has for churning and burning out these new agents to the point where they're like, this isn't worth it. Like, I can just put myself in their shoes and be like, yeah, the puppy mill of real estate doesn't sound attractive.
Yeah, especially, they're working so hard and have so little to show for. It's not that they don't work hard. They work so hard
Mhm.
and have little to show for it. And, my new agents, I lose maybe 10% at the most. And the other 90% are making six figures and above very quickly.
Yeah, and again, it's not just the money, it's the feeling that what they've done has resulted in value for them, for their clients, for the people around them. And I think that's where you become disillusioned and you become jaded, is when you see it as, like I said, you're a commodity, right? You're just
Yes.
there to just, put in your 70, 90 hours a week, and you're going to come home with your little, your little meal ticket.
Yes, and you'll work really hard, have very little to show for it. And it's an easy fix, right? For
Yeah.
me, it's an easy fix because I know the corporations don't have the bandwidth to do that. So that's one of the reasons why I started Real Momentum, because I believe that these agents can succeed at a really high level. It doesn't matter what company you're at. You can succeed at a high level when you're taught how to do it the right way and build the right foundation in your business.
What I also love about that message is the empowerment, or the empowering nature of that for those agents or for those people, right? Because that's one thing I see in the career space, in the corporate space, in any space where you're beholden to somebody else. the fear, the scarcity, that fear that we talked about. You're afraid that if you don't meet a certain quota, if you don't run at a certain pace, if you don't execute, you're going to get fired. You're going to get thrown to the curb. And then what do you do? Whereas I
Right.
think what you're offering here is an ability for somebody to create something that they could duplicate. If they were, if you were to take everything away from them, they could do it all over again.
Anywhere they go, anywhere in the country, anywhere that they go, they can absolutely duplicate it anytime they want. It's such a beautiful thing. You said they duplicate it easily. And it's a formula, it's a business model, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah. And
it's
then once
really
you've built the muscle, right? Once you've learned how to like bench press 300 pounds, you can bench press 300 pounds.
thank you. And there's only so many objections you get in real estate, Pete.
Yeah.
Once you know how to, they're the same ones. They may be verbalized a little differently. You get how much commission do you want? My property is worth more than everybody else's property. All those things. When you learn how to handle the objections, I say the game of real estate's over.
Yeah. Yeah. And realistically, it's like anything else. You're just planting seeds. You're just planting seeds. At some point in any person's life, they're going to get to a position where they need to sell a house, where they need to buy a house, right?
Yes.
Or rent or whatever it is, but they're going to be in that state. And if you're front of mind and if you become desensitized to the nose, and you're a normal person, you're going to be the one they remember. You're going to be the one that they reach out to. And I think that's just fundamental business.
It's so funny that you just said that, because you said you're going to be the one they reach out to, right?
Yeah.
And that's how everybody else is trying to teach it. And I'm like, why are you putting the responsibility on them?
Mm-hmm.
You're the salesperson. It's your responsibility to stay in touch with them.
Yeah.
And when you do that, when you check in every 90 days, Pete, it's magical, because it's out of sight, out of mind. That's normal, right? But yet we're so busy trying to get our people to reach out to us instead of taking the responsibility on that. It's our responsibility to stay in communication with them.
I think that's a real gold nugget to
Game
highlight.
changer.
That's a game changer, especially because look, like I'm indoctrinated with that thought, right? And if it's just there, it's your default.
Yes. And that's what everyone's trying to teach in sales, right? It's like, how do I get people to reach out to me? And I'm like, well, since when did it become their responsibility?
That's right. Oh my God, that's amazing. But I wanted to touch base a little bit before we kind of, in the latter half of our talk here, just about your experience and what brought you to our group and why, you're obviously a very, valuable member and contributor to this group. What brought you here?
It was interesting because Jim actually reached out to me directly, and he had been following my content on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And, my focus with content is the same thing, is to provide as much value as possible for real estate agents. Not, I got to build my business, I got it right. It's how do I provide the most value? And so Jim and I started talking about it, and I did some research, and I just loved the idea, right? I loved some of the people that had come before, as far as the authors. And there's an energy that's created wherever you go, right? And this particular group has an incredible energy. It's people, like-minded people who think in possibilities, right?
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because every single person I talk to, by being fortunate enough to host this program, is just, I learn so much and I get so energized. I'm like, oh my God, look at the possibilities there. Look at and I think, and again, in where we are, post elections and this mindset of like, oh, things are horrible and things are being taken away. It's always great to be in an environment where you see opportunity, where
Yes.
you see different perspectives of what's possible.
Absolutely. And I only see, do I see, a shift happening in the market? Yes. And I see it as I only see it as opportunity. I don't see it as a bad thing. I see it as opportunity.
Yeah. There's that ancient Chinese proverb that within chaos is opportunity, right? And so I think
love
it's a Chinese
that
proverb, but I might be misquoting.
I love that.
Go fact check me. I want to take one moment just to kind of, put it out there to anyone who's listening. If you're a thought leader, if you're a coach, if you have something valuable that you just want to share to the world, we are taking authors for volumes, I think 16 and 17 right now. So we would love to have you come on board. You can reach out to me via LinkedIn. I'm the only Pete Beskus around, or Jim Britt directly, because as you know, Jim's always going out and finding the authors, right? So if you
Jim's
think,
incredible.
oh, Jim's fantastic. And if you think that you have something that you want to say and you're not being seen yet, well, come and reach out to us, right? Like,
Yes, and Pete, I'm going to share something with you. I have so much experience as a coach for real estate agents and how to engage with consumers, right?
Mhm.
And at the same time, as a coach now, I have to sell to agents, really, right? And it's a different everything you do, you got to learn, right? Go
Yeah.
learn from the best, learn from the experts, and then you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. I learned this from a friend of mine. He's like, be the dumbest guy in the room, always. So that's why I love doing this, because I always feel like the dumbest guy in the room. And I just want to thank you for, coming to the show today and sharing everything you've shared. Before we wrap up today, is there anything that you want to add that maybe we didn't touch on?
Um, I just want to share. The only thing I want to share is the message. I want to repeat that message, which is we are moving into a time where it will be the most opportunity that there is for people to create very successful businesses, and especially in real estate, right? Because you're going to see a lot of agents leave the industry.
Mhm.
You're going to see a lot of turmoil, a lot of shakeup, and look at it like this: if you're thinking about getting into real estate, then come join Real Momentum and get your license right now, because this is the best opportunity we're going to see for a long time.
Yeah, like I kind of want to just parrot what you're saying, echo what you're saying. It's like lay your foundations. Like if you're going to go into business, it's the long game, and go get your fundamentals first. Build your
Yes,
muscle. Expect to get some punches in the face. Build up
yes.
build up that callus, and create whichever you want to create.
Pete, you really have to be my spokesperson. When
Anytime, Ophir. I'm excited talking to you. This is
when you
great.
talk about lead gen, Pete, the callous that I always used to take it so personally and make it about me. And the reason I stopped is I made it about the consumer. And the thing is, we're so focused on how everything affects us. When you develop that callous, you can accomplish anything in life.
I love
That
that. Yeah.
callous that you get from lead generating constantly and not taking rejection seriously and always moving forward, it has translated into all of my success in life.
That's amazing. Well, people can reach out to you. I know that you're available. You're on Facebook, you're on the LinkedIn, Real Momentum,
Instagram,
right?
Real Momentum Coaching on LinkedIn.
Excellent. Well, anybody, if you want to reach out to Ophir, and again, if you want to become a part of our network and our membership, we'd love to have you. So thanks again. Thank you again, Ophir. And to everyone else, we'll see you